You're listening to the Conscious Briefing Show podcast on Anchor FM.
Alrighty. Welcome back to another edition of the Conscious Briefing podcast. My name is Jason Batt and I will be your host for this evening's podcast. It is now the 17th of February 2020, just gone after 7 o'clock. I'm having my podcast with Moo Raider. Why is her name Moo Raider? Well, I respect her for it. She wishes to remain anonymous. And whoever comes to my podcast, this is the third time I'll be having a guest appearing who wishes to remain anonymous. Perfectly normal, 100%. We all understand why. Politics in this country, some people can talk about it freely, some people can't talk about it freely because of the workplace that they're at, contracts that get signed, and they've lot of contracts that people sign. People say if we catch you talking about politics, you are dismissed, and that. Yeah, company profiles, and what. I hope this podcast I can continue. So far, everything looks good. The lights are on. I got this light flashing in my face. We had another blackout last night. Not load shedding. It's a blackout. Remember what I said last week. It's a rolling blackout. That's what it is. It's not fucking load shedding. Cuck. Anyway. Let's get into the podcast. Before I get Moo Raider on the line, there's just a quick intro that I want to read you guys, just to give a little bit of context into what we're going to speak about, anarchism and capitalism. So yeah, let me read you quickly. That's what I got off the internet. Most economic systems taken purely in their theoretical form are separate from governmental systems, except for those systems that rely on government by the definition, fascism. An anarchist society could theoretically be communist, where the means of production are commonly shared. An anarchist society could theoretically be capitalist, where the means of production are held individually. Anarchy simply refers to the type of government. Is there a monopoly of force with the power of arbitrary dictation in the society, or isn't there? Some people believe an anarchist society would be a combination of communism and capitalism, because no monopoly of force would be able to force companies to be one or the other. Everyone would find the right micro society that is right for them in every situation. Anarchy is just freedom of association taken seriously. Now, if you define communism as requiring the power of the state to force everyone to share, then you can separate the two. Same goes with capitalism. If you define it as requiring corporations which must be acknowledged by a state of some kind, then you have interwoven the two and answered the question before you asked it. Questions revolve around the definitions of capitalism and anarchy. Instead, take the simplest definition we can of capitalism: an economic system where capital means to produce goods, can be owned by the individual or group. Okay, that's my intro. This should be an interesting one, because when people hear the name anarchy, then they think of chaos, which is not actually. So let's get into it. Let's get Moo Raider on the line and let's talk about it. Here's a quick edit before we get into the podcast with Moo Raider. Just a quick definition that I found on YouTube that I just want to add on here and just let you guys listen to what anarcho-capitalism is. So listen to this and then we'll get into the podcast.
Traditionally, anarchism has been understood to be on the left, standing in opposition to capitalism. However, starting in the 20th century, some on the right have declared themselves to be anarcho-capitalists. Anarcho-capitalists wish to eliminate the state to create a society where everything is done by capitalist private industry. How does anarcho-capitalism relate to traditional left anarchism, and is it even a form of anarchism? Both left anarchists and anarcho-capitalists declare themselves to be anti-state. However, opposition to states is not what defines anarchism. Anarchism opposes all unjustified social hierarchy in favor of a decentralized society based upon non-hierarchical free association and mutual aid. An anarchist society would thus be a society organized in a maximally non-hierarchical manner. This opposition to hierarchy includes, but is not limited to, opposition to states and opposition to capitalism. Anarcho-capitalists view the state as a coercive institution, but consider capitalism and private property to be completely voluntary. Anarcho-capitalists would thus consider their ideal society to be maximally voluntary. To anarcho-capitalists, paying taxes to a state is not a voluntary transaction, but paying rent to a landlord is. The tenants are voluntarily choosing to pay money to the landlord, who is voluntarily letting them live in their private property. Workers are similarly viewed as voluntarily choosing to work for businesses rightfully owned by capitalists, as another example of private property. Without a state, private police forces, sounds fun, right, compete to enforce private property. It's clear that the legitimacy of private property is central to anarcho-capitalism, but what exactly is it? Private property is property that creates hierarchical social relationships. Under capitalism, people who own private property, such as privately owned businesses, can sit back and collect a profit. People who don't own private property are forced to sell their time to those who do, or else face being denied survival needs. Without the social democratic policies that many states have today, this division would be even more extreme. Freedom under anarcho-capitalism would be a function of how much property one owns. When people make agreements but one party has vastly more power than the other, those agreements will disproportionately benefit the party with more power, i.e. those who own private property. An anarcho-capitalist society would not be voluntary. It would be a highly unequal and hierarchical society that could only ever be voluntary in name only. A maximally voluntary society would only be possible with maximal political equality and would be incompatible with a hierarchical and authoritarian economic system such as capitalism. Anarcho-capitalism has nothing to do with eliminating hierarchy. In fact, it necessitates a highly hierarchical society. It can be grouped with right libertarianism as a political philosophy that claims to stand for liberty, but in actuality values private property above liberty. Anarcho-capitalists do not wish to dismantle the oppressive and hierarchical structures of the state, rather they seek to privatize them. Thus, anarcho-capitalism cannot be considered a form of anarchism. The two are completely incompatible.
Hello, Moo Raider. How are you?
Hello.
Are you there?
I'm good, and you? Yes, I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. Listen, thanks for joining in on my show. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, I have to say I was a little bit nervous and a little bit hesitant, but
But you
peer
don't have
pressure
to
and all
be.
that.
No, man. Think of it just as a normal Discord chat when you chat with us on the ZSCP groups.
Well, at least I don't have to mind my P's and Q's.
Give the listeners quickly a quick shoot, intro, who you are, what you're about.
Well, I'm Moo Raider, Moo motherfuckers.
Moo motherfuckers, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just your average Joe doing your average 9 to 5 who decided to rebel against the system.
100%, Joe, 100%. Aren't we all, eh?
I think we all do in our own unique little special little ways.
Oh, true, eh? Listen, before we go into it, did you watch the Sona last week?
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. What a circus, eh? What a joke, eh?
Well, I had a bottle of vodka with me, and every time I heard the word promise, I took a shot. So
Exactly. Look, you know what? Everything else that he spoke about, our dear president, is just the same stuff that he speaks almost every year. Okay, what? He isn't. Okay, what? What Sona is this? Is this his second Sona or third Sona?
I think this is his third.
Third. I think it's
Not
his
sure.
third. Yeah.
Everything's just been kind of one big lie of a blur.
That's it. But when he spoke about the sovereignty one, where money will be transferred into the sovereignty account, well, where's the money going to come from for that sovereignty account? There isn't funds for it.
I had no idea we were a sovereign.
No, me neither. But apparently, this is a scheme that other countries are adapting, and where the SOEs go into like surpluses, the so-called surpluses, then that money will go into this sovereign account, and then will be taken to build schools and stuff like that. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not going to elaborate on that. That's like It's basically like wishing upon a rainbow and then landing in poop.
Yeah, exactly. As for everything else, I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing. I think we were all just trying to watch it and see if there was going to be a fight with the EFF, because they obviously promised with Proven being there. But then the big shocker came out, and then he lashed out words about F.E. de Klerk, and I tell you, social media.
I actually don't. Yeah, social media can be cruel, it can be evil, and it can definitely be used for good as well. However, the people in the government decide to use it for propaganda mostly.
Yeah.
A lot of people are too either, I wouldn't say dumb, but too lazy to actually do their homework themselves.
Yeah, of course.
They have the means, the ways, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, true. It's crazy. Flipping crazy. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the first question. You read that intro that I sent you, eh? I sent you an email, my little
Yeah,
intro.
I think so.
That was just to give the listeners and the viewers out there a little context on what we're going to talk about, because, the thing is, why is everyone viewing anarchy as a bad or good ideology?
Well, I think people misunderstand the whole concept of anarchy. Anarchy does not mean without rules, it means without rulers.
Yes.
It's derived from the Greek word, anarcho.
Yes.
And meaning without, and archo meaning master. So there is no masters. That's technically what anarchism is. No masters.
Yeah, of course. I mean, then the bad part about it is where everybody thinks that anarchy is chaos, where people protest in streets, and in essence, we've seen a little bit of that. I mean, okay, not a little bit, but quite a bit.
Well, anarchists are very peaceful people. We generally tend to stick to ourselves. It's like this whole silent brotherhood type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to go into someone's house, take their DVD player just because you live by a set of principles. So, principally speaking, if you are going to run into someone's house and take their shit, they have the right to do that back to you. You don't want that, so you don't do that.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, yes.
So how do you feel about anarchy?
Okay, for years now, when I hear the word anarchy, I mean, I've got pictures on my screen here. No gods, no masters and that. And everyone labels anarchy as a bad thing, you know. We like I said, but chaos and that, and malachite going on the streets. But after I've done my research now, and I know Ramon Cabannock, he supports anarchism 100%.
Well, he has very, very good reasons for doing so. I mean, anarchists, they're generally business-minded. They're generally upstanding citizens. They help old ladies across the street because it's the decent thing to do.
Yes. Yeah, of course, which makes sense. I mean,
and here we are being made monsters.
Exactly. His view is like everything must fall, crash and tumble, and then we can pick up the pieces and then rebuild a society to, you know, something better than what we currently have at the moment.
Well, isn't that the dream? Post-apocalypse?
Yes.
I mean, you have to... Exactly, and everyone has a post-apocalyptic skill. I mean, I have one. Everyone has one.
But the thing is that do viewers actually understand it? And this is probably why we're having this podcast, so that we can just go into a little bit depth and explain to people that anarchism is not really such a bad thing as what people make it out to be.
Well, truth be told, I did not think I was into the whole anarchism movement at all.
Yeah.
I was pretty much, you know, social libertarian. You know, I was for the man. And then I just realized, fuck that. Why can't I just be all for myself?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Of course, it makes sense. But I suppose people have got their ways of viewing it. To the viewers out there,
each their own.
You can do your own research and find that more. Go into depth in what anarchism is about. Yeah. The thing is,
it's about having a society, a brotherhood, a mutual understanding, voluntary association with people. You associate with people because you share things in common with them.
100%.
I mean, if you don't like this guy, you're not going to associate with him. Doesn't matter who he is.
Yeah, true.
So exactly, it's voluntary association. You basically conglomerate with people that you feel comfortable with, people that share your vision, share, you know, things in common. It's like, I like coffee. If someone else likes coffee, I'm going to start a conversation about coffee.
Yes, of course, yes. All right, the next question.
I was going to say weed, but I don't know if that's allowed.
Why not? Freedom of speech. Eh? Just say what you want to say.
But we don't have that, you forget.
Yeah, true. We don't. Not entirely. Yeah, you're right. Not entirely. Yeah. My next question.
That is another thing, absolute freedom of speech.
Absolutely. Can anarchy and capitalism?
Your next question.
Yeah, can anarchy and capitalism coexist with each other?
Of course they can. Any business owner, deep down, is an anarchist because he's in it for himself. He's in it for the betterment of himself, his family, the people around him. So by being a capitalist and an anarchist, you are basically improving your direct surroundings. You're employing people, you're creating growth. It's the same principle with anarchism. If you welcome you welcome someone into your house. I think that if you're going to be a capitalist and an anarchist, you have to think a certain way. You have to think about yourself and the effect it's going to have on those directly around you. It can be used for good, it can be used for evil. It is, of course, a corruptible system, just like any other system, but I don't know, it's just more liberating and a lot more freeing.
Another word for it is ANCAPs. Hey.
I think so.
Yeah,
I actually never really studied it. I
was
done
watching
a little bit of reading on it.
Yeah, I've done a couple of reading about it too. Watched some couple of YouTube videos, and yeah, that's another word that they use for it is ANCAPs.
Well, that's actually interesting. I haven't actually gone that in depth. I take a look at the people I work for. They are really outstanding people. They're not religious. They associate with businesses that they choose to. So I see that as kind of anarcho-capitalism because, once again, freedom of association, voluntary cooperation, you have to have this mindset of building, of creation. I mean, no anarchist actually really wants to break things down. They want to rebuild.
Of course.
They want to recreate.
Since I've joined the ZACP, I've starting to see the idea of capitalism as not such an evil thing as what most people out there tend to make it out to be. And that's the crony capitalists.
It's definitely not a dirty word.
Yeah, it's not a dirty word, but the leftists out there on social media, they seem to destroy it completely and bring in the environmental issues in it. I had a podcast with Beth Symes last year about capitalism and environment, and that was an interesting podcast. So for the viewers out there, if you want to listen to that, go into my playlist and you will find it there. And that's exactly.
Beth is sweet.
Yeah, no, she is. I had 2 podcasts with her. I think the other one I had with her was about sex education. Yeah.
Yeah, that I you see, I'm of two minds because first of all, I do believe that people should be educated even if they are young.
Yeah.
But the principles in me just says that's wrong, and that should be left up to parents. I think that would be morals and values and principles.
Yeah.
I don't think the school should be involved there unless they are actually.
That was a crazy.
I don't think the school should be involved. That's weird.
That's a crazy one. But what they're not teaching the children is about capitalism. And they should be teaching them more about capitalism and more about.
And they should be teaching them practical life skills. They should teach them how to budget. I mean, God, if I'd known that out of high school, I would have been much better off.
Exactly.
They should teach them how to plan for their futures, and they should teach them how to do their flipping taxes because that is a nightmare.
Oh, of course it is.
So yeah, they should be teaching kids practical things: how to fix your car if you're standing next to the road. Just a little bit of self-determination can get a long way.
True what you say there.
You're breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, which ideology between anarchism and capitalism will work better under a centralized or decentralized government system? I think I know what you're going to tell me on that one. A decentralized one will work better.
Well, of course it will, because I mean, if you decentralize something, it becomes a unit on its own. So that unit is responsible for itself.
Yeah.
And I mean, survival of the fittest. So you're going to work hard to achieve what you need to. So I definitely do agree in decentralization.
No, we all do. Yeah. I mean, it's like the cryptocurrency. I mean, everyone's talking about cryptocurrency at the moment. Why? Because it's a decentralized platform where people can't be taxed.
You broke up for that whole part. I didn't hear a single word.
No, I was saying that people are talking more about cryptocurrency, doing business through cryptocurrency, because it's a decentralized platform where government doesn't really have much say in it.
Well, I actually like that idea because that's exponential growth. That's, I don't know, that's a kind of freedom that mankind is actually just starting to explore right now.
Yeah.
Oh God, the SJWs are going to eat me alive for saying mankind.
No,
I could be talking about the I could be talking about the wrestler.
Screw them, man. I have fights with the SJWs all the time. I actually love engaging with the SJWs.
I find them toxic.
But the secret about them is that they want to break you down and upset you and make you angry. So I let them fall into that game and think they've got me angry. And instead, I actually break them down. And then once I got them where I got them, then I build them up and I say, well, guys, now let's talk about solutions now. And then it turns out to be a nice conversation with a troll. I've had many conversations with trolls that turns out ugly and then turns out beautiful, like a blossom little flower.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's actually really interesting. Delicate little flowers.
Oh, true, eh? Anyway, self-determination.
Yeah.
This is a topic that you and I have had many conversations on.
Yeah.
Could it work? Could it work in South Africa?
I think it could. I hate mentioning this, but it was, if you look at some of the independence that Americans have, like the Amish. The Amish actually, they flourish because they associate with themselves and they have a mutual understanding with those around them that they want to be on their own. It's religiously based, but it's a principle that actually works for them. I think people should just find what works for them and link that to the whole concept.
Of course, I mean, Oranje has been around since when did it actually start? In the 60s? But it was only until the 90s when Oranje started really taking form. And look at it today.
I mean, it is a very big success story when it comes to self-determination. That's also a prime example.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also association, but this time by culture.
Yeah.
So you have these little groupings of people all throughout the world. And for some other reason, here it's just not accepted.
True, eh?
I do understand that a lot of the stigma about Oranje, I haven't myself personally been there. It is a very fascinating concept.
I still want to go.
I mean, it is the whole self-determination, little conglomeration of people based on whether it be their hobbies or, I mean, look at the hippies. The hippies are also like that.
I just don't know if people like me and you will be welcomed in Oranje. I mean, no offense, it is very Afrikaans orientated, and their culture is strictly Afrikaans. So I just wonder if people like me and you can go there, because I've got plans. I mean, I've got ideas, and we've spoke about it on groups many times. Marijuana, Dacha. What's the better word for it? I can't think of the word now. Growing
Sweet
it.
Mary Jane.
Sweet Mary Jane. Growing it and actually selling it. But not selling it as in a sense of for people to smoke it. Selling it in the sense where you can make bricks out of it. Hemp bricks. Remember we had the discussion some time ago.
Well, I mean, it actually can be used to create hempcrete.
Hemp,
Uh,
hempcrete, yeah.
I
Sorry,
like
that's
reading up on this type of stuff. Yeah, I like reading up on this kind of stuff.
yeah.
Like, I think it can actually be used for a lot of things. It
Yeah.
should be used as a biofuel. It should be used instead of trees. It has so many uses, but it's not being capitalized. It
And
can make clothing.
of course, yeah.
It can create concrete. You can make bricks out of it. There's literally hundreds of uses
Yeah.
for this
Cannabis,
one
yeah.
specific plant,
That's the
and it
cannabis.
is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
No, it is, yeah. It is. But yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, I
us
personally hope they pass that legislation.
secession is something that's been on my mind for a long time. Okay, and the thing is just to get the correct proper funding for it, and that's probably why I was speaking a little bit about the hempcrete, because like I was saying, you needed funding. You have to get funding and then try and start a little self-determination dorpie out there.
Sorry, what was the question?
Now, it was a saying. Now I was talking about funding. Funding needed. You need funding to start a little self-determination dorpie, and that's why I spoke about selling cannabis, making hempcrete, so you can get funding for it.
Well, I mean, yet again, you can use Orania as an example because their main export is pecan nut. It's an industry.
Yeah.
It's actually crazy because it's a perfect system. They have their own industry. They created their own market for peanuts. Pecan nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, they actually they export. I'm not sure to which countries, but I know it's quite a substantial amount of countries that they export to.
Yeah, I know
And
they got.
it's just
I know they got over 200 businesses registered in Orania
exactly,
itself.
it's
For
a
such a small
business.
population, they're doing quite well for themselves.
Yes, but it's a business. It's run as a business. The
And
pecan nuts, the people that stay there all contribute to it in some way. Grocery store, it's post office, little school, that type of thing. They all contribute to this one idea, which is the business.
yeah,
And yet again, we have an aspect of anarchism there with voluntary association.
yeah, because there's no government involvement there.
No.
But I'm sure they do pay taxes.
Yeah, I think they do pay taxes.
They do
I
pay.
don't think,
So it's not.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
they,
they're not
as a business, would
100%
get away with not paying
off the
taxes.
grid completely. Yeah.
No, I mean, I've never been there. I've read a couple of articles about it. It's never actually been something that's fascinated me.
Yeah.
I believe in each person just doing their own thing. Honestly, if that's what makes them happy, by all means do it.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Oranje. There's no exploitation there, as far as I know. The people that they use to build Oranje, build houses, is the people that live there. There's no any outsourced workers that comes in. So you know what I'm saying? No exploitation. A good user, and that I like.
Well,
I like that. I like that a lot.
well, I've like I said, I've never actually experienced that, and it's never really fascinated me to that point. But what does fascinate me about the concept is that they have basic freedom of association. They are basically running a business, so wouldn't that make that anarcho-capitalist?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But coming down to everything, anarchy, capitalism, it can work. It can coexist. I think people just need to educate themselves a little bit more on the subject on hand.
I think so too. I mean, knowledge is of course power. So if you if you are knowledgeable on the aspects of the isms,
Yeah.
and trust me, I've gone through my phases of isms.
There's so many of them out there.
Yeah, I mean, think back to high school when it was all about the collective, all about the class.
Yeah.
You know, even if you were a little bit of an outcast in class, you were still technically part of the group. And if they caught on cuck, you caught on cuck.
Mm.
So that to me was the perfect example of what it is to be social. That's
Okay.
like socialism, basically. They share things, even their homework. So high school would be the perfect example of that mindset. So yeah, and then once you've actually leveled out, you go through your phases. I mean, I think everyone has had their phases of extremism. And then once you've settled down, you actually realize, oh, wait, life should actually be about this. And
Yeah,
then
true.
you wake up to the concept that anarchism is about the self. It's about the individual. I basically just think it's human nature to, once you reach a certain level of heartful, you kind of just realize deep down you really are an anarchist.
Mm. I'm beginning to think that maybe I am an anarchist.
I think everyone is in their own special way. A lot of people like what you see happening on American campuses. That's uncertainty. That's like they were raised thinking a certain way, and then all of a sudden it changed. So it's kind of like trauma and bomb shock, teenage rebellion all at the same time, but it varies from the teenage to the ludicrously old.
Yes.
So I think that's what we're beginning to experience here. And I think that's going to lead to a massive awakening.
No, well, folks, there you have it. Moo, thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming on. Anything
Did
else?
anything I say make any sense?
No, it does. No, I think it was good. It was interesting. I think
Yeah, it was me being
it
stoned.
was more. I wanted more the people to hear about anarchism as not such a bad thing. That they need to look at it in a different light. You with me?
Yeah, I think people do need to look at it in a different light. Yeah, I mean, up until I actually figured out where exactly my ideology lies,
Mm.
I think up until then I was very flip-floppy.
Yeah.
I mean, I as a person have my own personal opinion, but I can't press my opinion onto other people.
Mm.
That in itself is a massive contradiction.
Yeah. It's true what you say there,
So
because the one moment you think you're right, and then you think you're a libertarian. So you can't really make up your mind of what you want to
exactly,
be. Yeah. I've seen that in this
exactly.
last year. Yeah.
So people invent these silly little "where does my loyalty lie" tests to see how you best associate to something that other people have defined. It's it's really, I don't know, it's a stupid question.
No, it is. It's a stupid thing. Yeah. Anyway, Moo, don't go. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
okay,
just.
I think I fascinated.
I'm
I
gonna.
think
I'm
I've
gonna.
vetted you out enough.
I'm gonna just quickly give off my closing. But don't go, just stay right there. Okay, my podcast is available on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Anchor FM. This will be on YouTube and BitTude. Thank you very much for joining me, and I shall see you guys next week. Cheers, guys. Moo, thanks, eh? Cheers.
Oh, pleasure, and moo moo motherfuckers.
Moo, motherfuckers. Ciao, ciao.